Hello everybody. Today we're going to have a little bit of a play. So what you need is a bit of cling film. I don't know whether you can see that. It's on top of my watercolour paper there. I'm just using the watercolour paper here as a guide. If you've got any questions, make comments, subscribe and like the videos, and hopefully I'll get back to you at some point. I love getting questions, so please do that. Okay, so we're going to try and create a little landscape using some felt tip pens. So I'm going to paint using the felt tip pen onto the cling film. So literally just, I mean, if you use your watercolour paper as a template, just paint some water. We'll do some water like this. I'm just using a pale blue marker pen. Any marker pens will do this. And I'm sure you've all got a few hanging around. Whether it's pens from using for colouring in. I know that colouring in is of a big fashion these days. You can get colouring in books all over the place. Or maybe you've got grandchildren or children, and they, you know what they're like for felt tip pens. Layla's got, I don't know how many thousands of the things, and she still comes in and steals mine. So anyway, here we go. So I'm just adding some different coloured blues in here. You can see that some of my pens work well and some don't. It's always interesting to find out which ones work and which don't. When you're thinking about perspective, it's a good idea to use darker tones in the foreground and thicker lines. Seems like the only one that works better is this one. So thicker lines in the foreground and then go thinner as you go away. Okay, so there we got some sea, and now we're going to put in a little set of hills like this. You don't have to be too precise. Just rough some hills in like that. And again, you can put some different colours in if you've got them. I don't know whether this black will work. Just a little bit. Maybe put some little wiggly little textural lines in. I've got some thicker marker pens here. I don't know whether they work. Oh, that one's quite good. Let's do that a bit then. Okay. And then maybe we could have another range of mountains, and what we'll do is we'll make those a slightly paler colour. I've got these Copic pens, which are like almost like watercolour pens. There's so many pens on the market. Oh, that doesn't work. On the market these days. Does that one work? No, I think they're dried out. Let's try this one. Oh yes. That's a bit yellow, but who cares? Right, so the idea is to have a bit of fun with this, see what happens. So a little bit of yellow in there. And then we'll have some sky. And maybe we could sort of try and leave some clouds. So put some gaps in, just so that it gives the impression of a bit of cloud in those areas. Let's put another cloud maybe around there. So nice and quick. You can see how I just picked up a bit of yellow there and it started going green. If you want the sky to be thicker in the foreground, then put some extra ink there. Right, okay. So here comes the fun bit. So what you need to do is move that away over to one side like that, and then take your, I hope this is in shot, yeah, take your watercolour paper and just wet it. I'm just going to get a bigger brush for that. So just wet your watercolour paper. You don't want to completely drench it. You're just sort of wetting the surface, not much more than that. Okay, and then you're going to turn your image over carefully, and you're going to try and lay it down onto that watercolour paper without moving it too much, and then just pat it down so that all the ink makes contact with the paper. You can sort of rub it. It's quite nice actually if you rub it, and sometimes you'll get lines in it, which is quite nice also, especially for texture. So there we go, and then you just peel it off again, and ta-da! Oops, I just knocked the phone, sorry. There we go. Okay, so have a play with that. Once you've done that, you can take a piece of tissue and just lay it down on top and just dry it off a bit. Turn it over if you've taken like that. Dry it off, and then you can work on top of it. So you could take some, so I've just got my normal watercolours here, and I'm just going to go in with a little bit of cobalt blue, cobalt or cerulean blue will do it. And you can, I mean, I quite like just the surface as it is really, so just, you can see how much impact that watercolour has. Just be gentle and try not to get rid of too much of that lovely surface that was there already. It will bleed and it will blend, but if you want to sort of crisp areas up, you can also take your watercolour brush, a slightly damp watercolour brush, and pick up the ink off of your felt tip. So that's another way of doing it. So if you wanted to add some extra colour in, or you thought that you didn't put enough in certain places or whatever, just add it in and it will blend really nicely with the undersurface. But don't get rid of the undersurface too much because it's so lovely. If you want to mix a shadow for your clouds, you need a little bit of dark blue and a little bit of dark red, so you get a little purple, and then you can just put in a shadow underneath some of those clouds, which just gives it an extra little bit of texture and form, like that. Just a shadow under those clouds. I like the sky as it is. I'm going to leave it alone. With the distant hills, if they're a little bit strong, just take a tiny bit of blue and just mix a lot of water into it, and just put a little coat of blue, in fact could probably go a bit stronger than that, over those mountains, those distant hills. The undercoat is not coming up, you can see, and it'll just send them back just a touch. Just be careful of bits running around. I'm just going to strengthen the top of my hills here, just because they need a little bit of separation from the background. So I'm just using a bit of burnt umber for that. I'm just going to bring that down along the top side of those foreground hills, like that. You can see how lovely it is, the texture from coming off of those pens. I'm going to put a touch of Payne's Grey and ultramarine blue, and I'm just going to put a little bit of darkness just below that edge where the hill meets, and again meets the water's edge. I'm just going to even that up a bit. Can you see how that works? Just to create almost like a reflection coming down. So you can see that the hill goes up and down. So keep to that. And we'll put a little reflection in, like so. And we've still got the texture of the underlying image coming through. Okay, again, if you want to put some more ripples in, just take a fine brush, fine tip. This has got a fine tip on it, so it actually takes it really well. You can do lots of different jobs with this brush. I have a red spider mite crawling across my painting. I can't get rid of the things. They're everywhere. But they're welcome to crawl across my paintings as long as they don't eat them. So a lot of the insects in my studio eat my paintings. And no matter what I do, I can't get rid of them, so I just have to lock my paintings away. They particularly like watercolour for some reason. Don't ask me why. Right, so again, I've got some nice lines there. I'm just going to soften some of them in just with a touch of water. Just soften the mark that you've made in places if it's a bit strong. Okay, let's have a see. I'm going to put a little bit more darkness just along this edge, just there, like that. I'm just going to put, oops, want it there, but not as dark as that. Just to darken that edge up again, like that. Okay, so have a go. Oh, maybe, and this is for John. I know John likes his birds. He puts birds in everything. So let's put a couple of birds in the sky. Hope you're okay, John. And hope all my students are well, and also my new students, the ones I've not met yet, but hope to very soon, as I'm running some classes, some Zoom classes. If you want information about those, just get in touch. Okay, there you go. All right, have a go at that. It's very quick, instant. You can use it for all sorts of different techniques. Flowers particularly work really well. Sort of abstract backgrounds to put things on top of, all that sort of thing. But just have a play. It's really satisfying. Okay, see you again.